Facebook at The Coles Brown Show and Black College Sports Network, online at www.mybcsn.net, and on the BCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No. 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment. Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 387 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, radio show and podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBC dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, that's multi-Hall of Famer, the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Got a few topics to get into today. I'm sure we will get into the environment in which we will take a look at, especially this past week with regards to NFL draft or those who were not draft, but we had some great baseball this past weekend in the SWAC. I know we'll get into that. So looking forward to getting into all topics that are HBCU athletics.
No doubt about it. And you're absolutely correct. And that one is a hot one off the start about the NFL, but I think we'll get a chance to get into that a little more. Came across something with Jim Trotter that I thought made some good points. I have some data points that I've been discussing on a couple of shows and sharing as I listen to shows. But as we get into a little further to it, we can get a little more in dialogue, if you would, about that. But let's start, as we normally do, with some of the news of the day. Some big time news as you're starting to get into the championship hunt. A couple of championships have been crowned out of there. Where do you want to start, though, with the news of the day?
Well, let me start with news today. Let's start with football. If you have not seen it, there was only one NFL draft pick. It was former Jackson State cornerback Isaiah Bolden, who was selected by the New England Patriots. He was a 245th pick in the 7th round. But I want to acknowledge those players who were signed by NFL teams as undrafted free agents. So there are about approximately 16 of them, but we'll start Hampton wide receiver Jericho Bonds. He goes to the San Francisco 49ers. All-Pro State linebacker Claudine Charles goes to the New York Jets. Jackson State had a receiver Dallas Daniels to the Denver Broncos. South Carolina State Shaq Davis goes to the New Orleans Saints. UAPB's offensive tackle Mark Evans to the New Orleans Saints. Andrew Farmer from Lane College goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. Boise State quarterback Deion Golat, he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Virginia State running back Darius Higgins goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Alabama State DB Keenan Isaac to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Florida A&M rush in Isaiah Land, the linebacker, goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Jackson State's Aubrey Miller, linebacker, to the Miami Dolphins. Southern defensive lineman Cam Peterson, he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Bowie State defensive lineman Joshua Pryor going to the Washington Commanders. The X-Men, Florida A&M wide receiver Xavier Smith goes to the Los Angeles Rams. Nugget, Jackson State defensive back Dijon Nugget Warren goes to the Chicago Bears. Fort Valley State running back Emmanuel Wilson to the Denver Broncos. So those were the listing of your NFL undrafted free agents that will be looking to hook on with teams in the NFL.
I think that was, 12, 13 free agents that signed.
Yes.
One of them was invited for the summer camp.
Yes.
In terms of those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating when you break that down. And we'll get into it, like I said, a little more of that. One that I got to speak about a little bit that I'll get off there is Dillard wins Gulf Coast Athletic Conference Baseball Championship. Its first year of the program existence this is from DillardBlueDevils.com. Out of New Orleans over there, obviously they play the championship tournament in Jackson, Mississippi. Were you familiar out that in the old ballpark out that way? Dillard's baseball shocked GCAC, lost the first game, got in the loser bracket and just wouldn't stop winning after that. Won 5 games to get it done, including 2 on championship Sunday, as you would, knocking off Russ College that had played really good baseball. And even those games were close. They had essentially one bad inning in that second matchup where it became a winner take all. But great contest in terms of seeing the players going back and forth. And really, in a lot of ways, is what it's about in terms of having a conference and you having everything online. The smiles on the faces, and they even panned in the crowd, so you got to see the fans. Obviously, oftentimes moms and dads, brothers and sisters, and just alumni that were out there celebrating and supporting their team. So it was joyous to see what they were able to get done. Again, after losing that first game to Russ College in the quarterfinals, 10-1, Dillard battled back and won 2 games in a row to claim the championship on Saturday after winning 3 during the elimination phase to get to that championship Sunday. In the championship round, Tyler Fitch was the hero on offense as he drove in 3 of the Blue Devils' 5 runs and a 5-2 win over Rush to set up that final contest in a lot of ways. In the winner-take-all second game, Dillard gave 5 runs in the 8th inning to break a 3-3 tie, capped off by Jalen Ayers' 3-run inside the park home run that just got under the glove of an outfielder there. Dylan Scott would also get it done on the mound as he pitched a complete game, only allowing 2 runs and striking out 7 over 9 innings to clinch the title. And you always see that as the case. If you get into that loser bracket and you find a way to the championship game and find a way, obviously, to push through, in a lot of cases, that's because you get a couple of games where you get a pitcher that is able to give you those additional innings. They're complete game, obviously, but even if they give you 7 to 8 innings, that's how you're able to push through and get a little more of that momentum. So that was kudos to see Dillard get it done there in terms of giving you some news from the GCAC. First year of the program, not first time winning a championship in terms of, and essentially this is the first year the GCAC had enough teams, in this case 6, where they were actually able to do a full-fledged tournament. And so that was pretty cool. It was neat. Kudos to Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes and those presidents out there at GCAC schools that were able to push forward and bring back baseball. Significant. So I'm excited for the GCAC.
Yeah, that's pretty significant, especially when you take a look at Dillard first year in terms of their baseball program, and then to fight back from the losers bracket. That's strong. That's strong. Fight back from the GCAC regular season conference champion Russ College, and to fight their way into the championship game and to win it all. You take your hat off to that program. Talk about a program ascending places. Year 1, they bring home a trophy, Doc.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. Nothing stick your nose at that. Excited. You want to talk about South Carolina State as they win women's tennis championship?
I was going to talk about the baseball.
I'll do the South Carolina State, and I'll come back and let's do the baseball. South Carolina State wins 2023 MEAC women's. I was putting these championships in a row. That's why I wanted to get them out the way. MEAC women's tennis championship, dominated over the years, dominated throughout the season, and they get it done when it counts in terms of the tournament. South Carolina State defeats Delaware State 4-0 on a Saturday morning at the Cary Tennis Park to win the 2023 MEAC Eastern Athletic Conference MEAC Women's Tennis Championship. The Bulldogs won their third straight, as I was saying. They've done it for a while. And 17th overall to earn the MEAC automatic bid to the NCAA Women's Tennis Championship. South Carolina State got started with a strong doubles performance, winning at both number 1 and number 3 as they won that. And then at number 3, they also got it done in terms of winning those big games. Number 1 and number 3 were Nalanda Silva and Theodora Bouchet, won 6-0 at number 3 before Sophia Tracina and Hen Samala. Took a 7-5 win at number 1 to give the Bulldogs the double point. They continue to dominate and get it done as they win their outstanding performers. Goes to South Carolina State along with the coach. Hardeep Judge gets it done in terms of the tournament, and they just littered the all-tournament team in terms of that. Well, doing it for the women were not just enough. They turned around and did it for the men as well. So South Carolina State represents both on the men's and women's side tennis championship. South Carolina State on the men's side defeat North Carolina Central 4-0 on Saturday afternoon at the park there, Cary Tennis Park, to be specific, as they continue to get it done. With that being said, let me turn it back to you and give you some updates on where you wanted to go with some news of the day.
Yeah, let's look at the SWAC Baseball Weekly Honors for this past week, May 2nd. The SWAC has tabbed Alabama State's Ali LaPrete and Omar Melendez in SWAC Baseball Weekly Honors for their outstanding performances this past week. Hitter of the week, LaPrete, he returned to the lineup and helped the Hornets to a series sweep of FAMU. He hit .625 this past weekend, along with a .769 on-base percentage. During the 3-game sweep of FAMU, he drove in 7 runs with 3 home runs. He reached base 9 times. Dr. Cavil in 12 plate appearances over the weekend, went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs in a 10-1 Game 2 win. He also went 2 for 4 with a home run and 4 RBIs in a 13-10 win in the series for the Alley. And the pitcher of the week, Omar Melendez, he tossed 7 scoreless innings with 8 strikeouts to help Alabama State earn a 1-0 victory over FAMU in the series opener. He scattered 5 hits with 3 walks and only allowed 1 extra base hit. Melendez won his 6th straight start. So those are your players of the week in the SWAC. Heck of a series with Alabama State and FAMU.
Big time baseball, man. We'll turn in our second segment and really get into some baseball talk, man. It was some big time games played this weekend, some sweeps that I weren't quite expecting to go that way. So it'll be interesting as we dig into that. But before we take this break, I want to talk about this one. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Coach Antoine Sewell. It was over here at Prairie View one time. I followed him, had him on there. Bowie State defensive coordinator. Morgan State coach selected for the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship with Ravens. This is from HBCU Sports. That's Morgan State's defensive coordinator, Antoine Sewell, has been selected for the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship program in the Baltimore Ravens. Sewell is the second coach with Bowie State ties to be selected for this fellowship in as many years, along with former Bulldogs quarterback and wide receiver coach Nemo Washington, who worked with Cleveland Browns in 2022 before taking a job at Morgan State. Sewell was the defensive coordinator of his alma mater, Bowie State Bulldogs, leading a unit that won 3 straight CIAA championships from 2018 to 21, would not let it go, going deep into the playoffs several of those years, I must say. Sewell, who drew interest from Alabama State, joined Damon Wilson as Morgan State's, after Wilson was named Bears coach last season. Other previous coaching stops for the Bear defensive coach include Prairie View A&M, where he won a championship there, and Fort Valley State previous to that. Kudos to Coach Antoine Sewell. Big news, big stuff going on there. I was excited about that. You know, last week we had the money, as we talked about the money sports. Add another one to it before we get into this last break. Town Bank pledges $1 million gift to Hampton University for the naming rights, along with some other things they'll do, and that's naming rights to the stadium. Hampton University announced today that Town Bank has pledged $1 million to the university for naming rights to Armstrong Stadium and premier engagements with the Department of Athletics. The grant also outlines career services and professional development opportunities between the university and Town Park family of companies. Hampton University President Daryl K. Williams said, quote, "We're extremely excited about this news and we look very much forward to our enhancement partnership. We truly appreciate Town Bank and its continued support and advocacy of Hampton and our vision to amplify and sustain the athletic program and the culture of excellence that promote national university pride and build high-achieving leaders and champions. Thank you again, Town Bank," end quote. Quote, "The gift marks the largest partnership between Town Bank and HBCU," end quote, said Alexis Swan, president of Town Bank Consonola in Williamsburg. Quote, "We are excited about the opportunity to collaborate and find new strategic ways to enhance our relationship with Hampton University," end quote. Big time in terms of that opportunity. Interesting, and for the number of years, they really don't get into that. So that'd be fascinating to see if that's $1 million over some period of time or 1 year, or is it $1 million per year? It didn't really get into that level of detail, but that'll do it for this segment. Stickle will be right back after this break. We'll come back on the other side and really get into some of the baseball talk as we get excited of what took place. Give you some updates on some of the independent programs. Tough weekend for them. We do have one of the programs that's in the hunt, so we'll make sure we talk about that out of the Northeast Conference. And then we'll get in really where it's getting hot and heavy in the SWAC baseball. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this first break.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let me get you some updates on some of these scores here as we look at the Colonial with North Carolina A&T. They had a tough weekend, and they've really struggled over the last couple of weekends. Told you as we came back 2 weeks ago, they swept, which was a great weekend, and they turned around and got swept basically this weekend. So they're sitting in the 9th position in the Colonial, but they're just a game and a half back from that vaunted 6th spot. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do over the last couple of weekends as they, in a lot of ways, just continue to struggle in terms of what's going on there with them in the Colonial position. Let me see if I can get you some of these scores just to keep you updated to be informed there. First thing started off on that Friday, as you know, play a 3-game series. Sometimes they play a double header, but they started on Friday where they played Stony Brook. They lost that game 5-1 to start things off, where they actually played a double header on that Friday. So they get back for the second game and see if they can get some things going. It was not to be. Closer contest, but still could not get over the hurdle. They lose that one 5-3 in terms of what took place there. Were not able to get a game in on Saturday. And so they played the final game on Sunday, and not to any avail as they lose that one 6-1. So you come off and you get some excited with people talking about down the stretch. You're a little closer in terms of right there in this 7th spot, just a game back. I think it was a week ago. You come back this weekend, you lose 3 to Stony Brook, but it gets you in a position to really have a chance to make the Colonial playoffs, which is the top 6 teams that they do. And so you have no room for error if you're North Carolina A&T trying to figure that out. So tough haul going there. Any thoughts, Charles, and just how tough that may be in terms of trying to make a late season run in terms of what that looks like there for North Carolina A&T and the Colonial, the first year in terms of making a run in the baseball after not doing too well in the Big South as well?
Yeah, tough road for North Carolina A&T in terms of their first year in the CAA. But, I'm curious to see, especially with regards to Black College Nines, where they might fall after having a tough weekend like they did. You thought that things were going to be swing, in an upward trend for A&T after the previous weekend where they were able to get the sweep. But disappointing weekend, but tough conference. And A&T, we'll see how they can get to, like you said, that bonus sixth position.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like as they try to get it done. It looks like they have a long road to go, but if you can string a couple of wins together, get some confidence going, get the bats going, you might be able to get into it. Pitching wise, they've been in those games. You've seen those games. It wasn't like they were just beat in terms of the bats taking it to them. They were all competitive in those games in terms of losing relatively close. But you got to get a little more runs across the plate to be able to put some pressure on the other team's batting. And pitching. Couldn't do that. Northeast Conference, you have the previous MEAC matchup, if you would, between Maryland, Eastern Shore, and Norfolk State. So I was interested to see what this looks like. And it went a ways in terms of putting Maryland Shore up in that top 6 seed in terms of see what they took like in that matchup. So on Friday, as they get it started, Maryland Eastern Shore defeats Norfolk State 10-8 in terms of what you had there on Friday. Getting into the Saturday matchups, you got a little more going. Maryland Eastern Shore continues to get it done, so they know they win the series. They defeat Norfolk State 6-4, so they take the second game. Coppin State beats up on Sacred Heart 13-1 in that matchup, but Delaware State in their matchup against Long Island loses 5-1 in terms of what took place there. On Sunday, we'll see what took place with Maryland Eastern Shore. Do they get the brooms out in terms of what that looks like? They weren't able to get those third games in terms of the matchup there because they do a double header on Saturday, and Norfolk State gets a little bounce back, and so they weren't swept in terms of that matchup. So they do get a win there. Norfolk State defeats Maryland Eastern Shore 7-5 in terms of what took place there. So when you look at the seedings, where it gets a little interesting, Maryland Eastern Shore, because of taking 2 out of 3 from Norfolk State, they sit at this 6th spot. They are 2 games ahead of Merrimack, that's behind them, and they are just a half a game behind Sacred Heart in terms of securing that spot as they try to get prepared for the Northeast tournament to see if they can get in that tournament as things go there. So Maryland Eastern Shore has been pretty solid. They're 11-10 overall in the conference in terms of being able to be solid in the middle of the hunt. So they've been playing pretty good baseball in terms of conference play. Overall, they're just 15-27. They've been kind of up and down in the season. Not so much for Coppin State coming in at 7-14. Delaware State behind them at 6-15. Tied with Norfolk State at 6-15, but not at the bottom as you had Stonehill that is 5-16. Looking at Maryland Eastern Shore, what are your thoughts in terms of just overall how they've kind of played this first year, if you would, in terms of Northeast Conference, at least being pretty competitive, middle of the road, if you would, and trying to put themselves in a position to see if they can make a tournament about being able to get a couple of series here and there in the Northeast Conference this first year?
Well, you mentioned they're 11-10 in the conference in their first year. Very competitive, one game above 500. And you're talking about a strong program coming over from the MEAC into this conference, and they've continued to stay strong during this first year in their Northeast Conference. So, they carried over that pitching, and that's what you got to have here on this level with regards to throwing some decent arms out there. We remember Coppin State and now Maryland Eastern Shore with some pretty good arms. So they've had a very successful first year in the Northeast Conference.
Now I'm gonna take this over, just get your general thoughts. But I was into this, and so I know you didn't quite follow it like I did. But I would be remiss if I didn't get some interest in terms of this MEAC softball tournament. I told you going in the last week, this was the final week. And so you had that matchup between Morgan State and North Carolina Central. Essentially, it was going to be for first place in the division with Norfolk State right in the mix as they hosted Maryland Eastern Shore. Well, I'm going to start with this. Maryland Eastern Shore got beat up by Norfolk State, pretty much got swept there as they got out of there. So they fall out of that top 4 spot as they do stay in that 6th spot. But you're talking about being securely in to just hanging in. But Norfolk State takes 2 from Central in terms of being able to get it done. So Morgan State, the Bears, Lady Bears, they win the softball regular season championship, 24-19, as they get it done against Norfolk State on the road. So pretty significant there. Norfolk State behind them at 24-21. They'll have the 2nd seed, while North Carolina Central will hold on to the 3rd seed, and then Howard finds a way to sneak up to the 4th seed after winning there. Have won 6 of the last games, so they're playing pretty good softball right now. Coppin State gets into the tournament as well. And that 5th spot in Maryland East Shore just holds on for the 6th spot. But fascinating when you talk about what's going on a little bit in the softball over there. Obviously, this week for the SWAC, you get into softball. So it's going to be interesting to see when you talk about the East versus West. The record, only 1 loss for Prairie View in terms of what they're able to do in the total SWAC, if you would. Can they utilize that, and can they hold on to that momentum that they will take advantage of the West as they sweep Southern and make sure that Southern does not get into the tournament? Southern does not make the top 4 spots in terms of the Alcorn is able to get in there above Southern. But it's going to be interesting when you start looking at these SWAC East. Obviously we talk a little bit about that in terms of the term for baseball, but we see it's playing its head again. So I'm fascinated to see what that will mean in terms of the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman holds on to 1st place, even though they lost their last game. In the East, 18-7. They finished above Jackson State. That is at 12-12, tied with Alabama State at, guess what, 12-12. And we're not finished with the ties, Charles. You have FAMU at 12-12 in terms of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll have to see the tiebreakers. But this is what's ironic about how these teams finish. All these teams finish out the season with a loss. For Bethune-Cookman, it was just 1. Jackson State and Alabama State, it was 1. But FAMU gets into the tournament, as it looks now, losing their 4 straight games. The first matchup they play against Prairie View, when you do the East-West, it's number 1 in the West, but number 4 in the East in regards to as the standings hold out now. So it'll be fascinating to kind of see what that looks like in terms of what goes on there. Let me take that back. That was last year's record. But in terms of what took place this year, Alabama State is actually the number 1 seed. That's what I recall coming into, so I was a little confused with what was going on there. They've won 5 straight. So that I'm interested if they'll play each other. Obviously, that was the championship game that Alabama State thought they were going to go in there as they were looking as the strongest team coming into 2022. But Prairie View got hot and got it done. So if they face off sometime in the tournament, it's fascinating to see what that looks like. But let me break down the top 4 teams in terms of 2023. Alabama State, number 1, 17-7. Bethune-Cookman at 15-9. Alabama A&M at 13-10. Jackson State at 13-11, just edging out FAMU that will not make the tournament at 12-11 in terms of what took place there. Big win by Jackson State. Needed that last win they got to make sure they got in the tournament. Kudos to Jackson State. In the West, Prairie View 22-2 in terms of what they're able to do. Grambling State, 2nd seed at 14-9. Texas Southern at 12-12. And Alcorn State, as I said, at the 4th spot, 11-13. While Southern is outside looking in 8-16. They had a chance, depending on what they could do against Prairie View, and needed some luck by Alcorn State. Could not get that done. So those are your seeding going into the tournament this week. They start off on Thursday with fascinating, as we'll give you some updates on Thursday when we come back into the show about what took place there. Let's get into our second break. We'll come back on the other side and talk a little bit about the SWAC baseball, what took place this weekend, and see what Charles thinks. Charles, I can give you this. And we talked a little bit about this. There was some pitching. Are you concerned? There was a pitching matchup that went down, a one-hole game. We'll talk about who got it done on the other side. Stick with me right back after this second break.
Stillman College is an HBCU in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we prepare students for a different world. Stillman is a college of distinction for last year and this year. Our largest majors are business and biology, followed closely by psychology, criminal justice, and history for pre-law, communications, English, and religion. Our newest degree programs are in the Department of Computational Sciences, which covers cybersecurity, data analytics, and math. The Biomedical Academy prepares students for competitive entry into health professions and graduate programs. We have established summer biomedical research internships with major research institutions, such as the University of Alabama, Drexel and Temple Universities in Philadelphia, the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, and the universities of Florida, Indiana, and Iowa. We became creative with social distancing and masks for the pandemic. Our students enjoy movie nights at the stadium and the new Melissa and Davis Legacy Courtyard, where you can eat and enjoy friends. We have the Divine Nine Greek letter organizations, student government leadership, and ambassadors. Our small class sizes, nurturing faculty, and friendly environment let you know that Black Lives Matter at Stillman College each and every day. Applications are free. Sign up at discover.stillman.edu. Complete the contact card and apply today. Stillman College, where we prepare students for a different world.
Press the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, bringing you a segment in terms of the SWAC baseball. Things jumped off on Friday. I kind of teased this out, and it really got going. And everybody was looking at that FAMU Alabama State matchup. Remember, they'll play twice in a matter of 4 weeks. So this was the first crucible to see two teams that were at the top of the conference, tied at the time going into this matchup, going in both at 15-3 before what took place this weekend. But the first matchup was a pitching game. Alabama State got it done, winning 1-0 over FAMU. Remember, these games are played in Montgomery, setting up the rest of the weekend. What also took place is the fact that Jackson State got it done as they end up defeating Bethune-Cookman that is challenged a little bit in terms of what's taking place of lately in terms of that matchup. And then you have Texas Southern getting it done against Alcorn State 9-2. Prairie View pulls out a late game winner against Grambling 8-5. And Southern defeats Arkansas Pine Bluff 10-1. Didn't think much of that, but a couple of scores as you get into it were very interesting in terms of what took place a couple of days later. In terms of Valley gets it done against Alabama A&M, 6-1 in terms of that matchup. In terms of those Friday matchups, so let's see what takes place as it gets a little more interesting on Saturday. Valley wins against Alabama A&M. Alabama State blows out FAMU. So that's 10-1 in terms of that matchup. Grambling has a thrilling win over Prairie View in late innings as they get a walk-off to win 11-10. And then you have games that are played on Sunday. And we find out that Jackson State takes another one from Bethune-Cookman, 5-3. And then they even win the third game. So they bring out the brooms. Jackson State wins 7-3, which shook a lot of folks up. I wouldn't necessarily be that surprised that Jackson State can find a way to get it done against Bethune-Cookman at home, but to bring out the brooms and sweep, I'm not sure if I was following that. That means that Bethune-Cookman has gotten swept 2 weeks in a row. Last week, Alabama State, and this week, Jackson State. They really pushed them out of first place in a lot of ways.
2 or 3.
They took 2 or 3.
2 out of 3. Bethune got the Friday game in extra innings. Yeah, it went extra innings, 13. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that correction there. I do got this one though. Alabama State wins though FAMU 13-10 to get the sweep in terms of that matchup. Valley gets the sweep against Alabama A&M 10-7. Texas Southern takes it to Alcorn State 17-7, putting them in the woodshed in terms of that matchup. But you get Arkansas Pine Bluff taking 2 from Southern, which shocked me. So you got Jackson State taking 2 out of 3, and then Southern losing 2 out of 3. Our friend Carlos over there was having concerns about baseball. He's like, not so fast. Get off the field.
Legit.
All right.
It's legit.
When you talk about that, I'll get into where people's standings are after I give you a chance to kind of talk about what did you think about this Topsy and Turley weekends with a couple of sweeps out there, some teams getting 2 out of 3 that was shocking, and then a team like Southern losing 2 out of 3 to
Let me start with the least obvious, and that's Mississippi Valley with the sweep of Alabama A&M. I got to call Hakeem McClellan and check and see when's the last time Valley baseball swept a team, because I have not seen that in quite some time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, so that
because Valley hadn't been competitive since they had Schenkel, I think it was.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's been what, at least?
Yeah, since Doug Shanks or somebody. Yeah, so that's been a long time. So that jumped out at me. You mentioned UAPB taking 2 or 3 from Southern. That was a shocker. This is about that time of the year we start waiting for that Southern kick to come in, and that was a momentum killer to see UAPB, a team that quite honestly has been at the bottom of the SWAC West, take 2 or 3 from Southern. You just don't see it. And then take a look at what Grambling did over the weekend with PV. They did a great job, I think, of taking 2 of 3 they took 2 or 3 from Prairie View. So they held serve, if you will, in the SWAC West. So it further legitimized Grambling baseball, especially as we take on these last few weeks here of the regular season, getting to the tournament. Flip over, take a look at the SWAC East. Total shocker with Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman. I thought Bethune-Cookman would probably go in at a minimum, take 2 or 3 against Jackson State. Jackson State has been down this past season, but complete shocker for Jackson State to take 2 or 3 from a Bethune-Cookman team that was playing some pretty good baseball. So I did not expect to see that. The one, of course, complete shocker, but they are the class of the league, and it's Alabama State. I mentioned they're number 1 in hitting. They're number 1 in pitching. They're number 2 in fielding percentage. And to go out and to sweep you talk about 2 and 2A, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman with regards to the SWAC East. To sweep FAMU, I can't say enough about that. And so I'm going to really be looking at that last weekend when Alabama State goes to Tallahassee. That's going to be phenomenal, especially the pitching matchup. Omar Melendez, he's one of the top pitchers in the league. He is undefeated thus far in the league, going against Hunter Beats. Hunter Beats went into that game Friday night. He was undefeated as well. But both of them played tremendous pitching performance. You take a look at the stat line in regards to Hunter Beats. He really had some changeup or sinker working because he got, I believe, 12 groundouts in that game. So he really had the ball moving around. Alabama State was able to get on top of him at some point and scratch across a run. But Alabama State sweeping FAMU, that was huge. Huge momentum booster as we go into these last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, that's fascinating when you talk about what took place there. As you said, that was significant when you sweep a team like FAMU that was playing really good baseball. Obviously, you had the first game. Third game ended up being close in terms of the scores there, even though. And Alabama State is able to win the games in various fashions. They win the shutout, and then when they need to, they can out-hit you as well.
There it is.
That's a tough way to match up and a great way to go into the tournament. Let me give you the updated standings, at least who would be in the tournament thus far, and it looks like it's going to stand this way. Even though Southern lost 2 out of 3, they are 3 games ahead of Pine Bluff, so I guess Pine Bluff still has a puncher's chance. But Southern is sitting at 9-9. They've lost 2 straight, obviously, as we talked about there. Prairie View lost the last 2 games of their series, but they are at 13-7, so they dropped below Texas Southern that sweeps their matchup with Alcorn. So they move up to 13-6 quietly. We told you to watch out for Texas Southern in terms of area to hit. But now it seems like getting a little pitching. The schedule is rounding out in their favor. They're right there. So there's going to be a matchup, which creates a big matchup this weekend that I'll give you a chance to talk a little bit in your mind, which is Grambling coming here to Houston to face Texas Southern.
Huge.
So Grambling has had 3 straight weekends. Southern down in Baton Rouge, they come up. They got a first-place matchup against Prairie View. They say, oh, well, this is your bonus for doing that. Yeah, you're in first, but now Texas Southern is in your backyard at number 2, and you got to travel on the road to Houston to play them. So Texas Southern, as I said, sitting at 13-6, Grambling at 16-5. In terms of those top 4 teams in the West Division, you go over to the East, just when we're kind of burying Jackson State and saying they really need to push if they want to solidify themselves, at least find a way to get in the tournament. They do just that against a team that you were not necessarily thinking about that in terms of Bethune-Cookman. You have Mississippi Valley State just on outside, 3 games in terms of the win column, but they're 5 back in the loss column. So Jackson State should be pretty solid in that 4th spot at 9-12.